there was a Sunday that I was at church, and a friend of mine was giving the sermon, and her and I had very similar lives. We both lived at the time in the dorms or on campus at Gordon Conwell. We attended the same church, and she started her sermon with, "I have a very luxurious life." And it caused me this pause. So I thought, if she has a luxurious life, then I have a luxurious life. And so I began to think about all the things that I did have. And so when I think about being grateful, I now put into my life this pause with every prayer that I say, not just mealtime prayer, but when I wake up, when I spend time in devotionals, may it be in a small group, to be grateful for the things that we have every day. I have food to eat, and not just food to eat, but I get to eat what I want to eat. If I want steak for dinner, I'm gonna have steak for dinner. And if I want shrimp, and if I want cereal, right? So I have options, and that's unheard of by most Americans, and certainly in most parts of the world, to be able to choose what I want to eat. I have a warm and safe place to lay my head. And again, there, I get to choose how to decorate that space and what that looks like. And all these things are actually bonuses and luxuries. And they're simply things that we as Americans take for granted. Having hot water when I turn on the faucet. I also remember living in the Dominican Republic, and there would be times where I lived where the electricity would go off for 12 hours a day. And so you didn't have electricity, and being able to learn how to work around that. And that meant that your life couldn't circle around laptops and television, right? Because they're not going to always be available if there's not electricity. It also meant on occasion that we didn't have water, and for days. So I remember multiple times throughout the year that I was there not having water for 3 days in a row, which means I didn't shower for 3 days. And it became just a way of life, and you do that. And it was the same day, of course, that I was flying back to the States for good. And I remember very specifically the degrees of feeling uncomfortable and out because I hadn't showered for 3 days. And that was fine when I left the little village of Jarabacoa, but it was less fine when I got onto the plane in Santiago. And it was even more less fine, if you will, when I got onto the plane in Chicago, you know, because there was more and more people who had showered, and it was clear that I was the outsider. So that moment was a good moment for me to think and to be grateful for the things that I have every day. And so simply reminding myself to be grateful, as much as it might be a Sunday school answer, is simply prayer. I just remember to pray and to pause and to thank God for the hot water, the food, the warm, safe shelter that I have that so many others do not.